Relax your wrists, ma'am.
Officer, I don't understand why I am being detained.
I'd rehearsed it 100 times. Now sirens drowned it out. Blue and red strobe lights cut through the night. A police cruiser swerved in front of her Tesla. Tires screamed. 2 officers stepped out, one young, rigid, the other older, eyes narrow with casual certainty. "License and registration," the older one barked. Maya's pulse climbed. She lowered her window halfway, voice steady. "Officer, what's the reason for the stop?" He smirked. "You fit the description, that line." She'd heard it before, but never in a designer suit. Never with her face on billboards across the state. She handed over her ID. His gaze froze on it. Dr. Maya L. Carter, presidential candidate. He blinked, then said quieter but sharper, "Fake ID, step out of the vehicle." Her throat went dry. "That's my name." "You can step out." Phones began to rise from passing cars. A woman's voice shouted, "That's Dr. Carter." The younger officer hesitated. The older shoved her against the car. The cold metal cuff bit her wrist. "Stop resisting." "I'm not." "Stop resisting." The cameras flashed, the city blinked awake, and a single line from the officer's mic crackled over dispatch. "Black female suspect detained, claiming to be a presidential candidate." The world went silent just before the click of the second cuff. Rain pressed against the windshield in rhythmic bursts, blurring the road ahead. Dr. Maya Carter gripped the steering wheel, her mind still tuned to the echo of applause from the night's rally. Downtown Atlanta shimmered behind her, a skyline of promises now dimmed by stormlight. The blue lights hit like a slap. She checked her speed. 42 and a 45. Perfectly legal. Her chest tightened anyway, that reflex born years before her first degree, long before Candidate Carter was printed on podiums. The cruiser blared a quick whoop of sirens. She pulled over. The officer's flashlight sliced through the dark. His voice followed, and sharp, commanding. "Evening, ma'am. License and registration." Of course. She kept her hands visible, every motion deliberate. "May I ask the reason for the stop?" "You match the description of a car involved in a break-in." Her voice stayed even. "What description?" He didn't answer. His eyes scanned her suit, the car's interior, the campaign flyers on the passenger seat. "Step out of the vehicle. I'd prefer to know." He yanked the door open. The night swallowed her scent of rain and perfume. "Step out," he repeated. She did. Shoes met wet pavement. Cold soaked through her heels. Hands on the hood. The younger officer hovered nearby, uncertain. "Sarge, I think, do your job, Parker." Metal bit her wrist. The cuff snapped. "Sir," she managed, "I am Dr. Maya Carter. I'm running for president." "Check my ID." He laughed under his breath. "Yeah? And I'm the Pope." A crowd formed, drawn by the sirens. A teenager raised a phone. "Yo, that's her." "That's Dr. Carter." "Holt." She caught his badge name now, tensed. "Phones down or you're obstructing." No one lowered them. The radio crackled. Parker glanced toward their car. "Sarge, dispatch says, quiet." Holt's tone cut like glass. Maya's heart hammered, but her voice didn't waver. "Officer, if you'll just verify." "Turn around." "You already?" He shoved her shoulder lightly, but with that edge of assertion that said, "Because I can." Camera flashes lit the wet asphalt. Inside the cruiser, Holt typed something into his dash computer. Parker's voice was low. "Sir, that's really her." Dispatch confirmed it. Holt's jaw flexed. She'll still learn not to talk back. Maya stared ahead through the partition glass, her reflection fractured by the blue lights. The cuffs dug deeper as the radio announced. Her name, this time with reverence. Presidential. Candidate detained, possible mistaken identity. Her stomach turned. Cold. He didn't apologize. Didn't look at her. Just muttered, "Too late now." At booking, the flash of the camera burned into her retinas. The same flash she'd seen at campaign rallies, now capturing her humiliation instead of her hope. Somewhere, someone was already posting the photo. Maya lifted her chin as the shutter clicked again. If the world was going to see her in chains, she decided they'd also see she wasn't afraid. The video hit the internet before dawn. A shaky clip, rain-speckled lens. The muffled voice of a teenager shouting, "That's Dr. Carter." She didn't do anything. By sunrise, 30 million views. Maya sat at her kitchen counter, hands wrapped around a cup of untouched coffee. The TV murmured across the room, split screen, her mugshot on the left, the footage on the right. The anchor's tone carried that polished mix of sympathy and suspicion. Presidential candidate Dr. Maya Carter was briefly detained last night by Atlanta police in what officials are calling a misunderstanding. Critics, however, say she muted the sound. The silence was heavier than the news. Her campaign manager, Alicia Monroe, burst in, phone pressed to her ear. No, we're not issuing a statement yet. Not until legal reviews. She hung up, exhaled. Maya, it's everywhere. CNN, BBC, even TMZ. They're looping the arrest. Some outlets are saying you resisted. I didn't. I know, but perception doesn't care. Maya's phone buzzed. Hundreds of messages, supporters, journalists, trolls. Her social feed was a battlefield. Justice for Maya clashing with your law and order. They'll twist it, she said quietly. Turn my dignity into defiance. Alicia dropped her bag, pacing. We have two options. Play the victim or play the reformer. Either way, you can't hide. The press conference is in 4 hours. Maya looked out the window. The city seemed smaller now, fragile under the gray light. And the officer? Alicia hesitated. Administrative leave. With pay. Of course. The doorbell rang. Malcolm Jones, her attorney, briefcase in hand, face tight. Morning, or whatever this is. He set papers on the counter. You can sue. False arrest, public humiliation, defamation. We'd win. Maya shook her head. And they'll call it political theater. Then make it theater with substance, she looked up sharply. His tone wasn't cruel, just pragmatic. They'll eat you alive if you act like nothing happened, he said. You've got proof, credibility, a nation watching. Alicia leaned forward. He's right. Use it, Maya rose, pacing slowly. The tile was cold beneath her bare feet. Use it, that's what everyone wants. Turn pain into content, her voice hardened. I didn't survive this to trend. I survived it to remind them what's real. Alicia softened. Then speak that truth. But on your terms. By noon, cameras lined the street outside her home. Reporters braced umbrellas against drizzle. Microphones gleamed like bayonets. Maya stepped out wearing gray, neutral, deliberate. No makeup, no polish. Just presence, a reporter shouted first. Dr. Carter, are you pressing charges? No comment. Do you believe the officer acted with racial bias? She paused, meeting the camera lens directly. I believe bias doesn't need belief to exist. Murmurs rippled. A flash of shudders, another voice. Will you drop out of the race? She steadied her breath. If justice required silence, I'd never have spoken in the first place. The questions swelled, chaotic. Alicia signaled to end it. Maya turned and walked back inside, the noise dissolving behind her. That night, her team huddled around glowing laptops. The police department statement appeared online. The Atlanta Police Department regrets the unfortunate incident involving Dr. Carter. Officers acted in good faith based on available information at the time. Alicia slammed her fist against the table. Good faith? They threw you against your own car. Malcolm scrolled through the comments. Public split right down the middle. Half are furious, half say you're playing the race card. Maya rubbed her temples. They need to see what I saw. Not anger, evidence. Then we find it, Alicia said. Body cam footage, dash cam, dispatch logs. If they won't release it, we'll subpoena it. Maya's eyes lifted, a flicker of defiance breaking through exhaustion. Do it. Near midnight, she stood alone on her balcony. City lights blurred through the drizzle. Her wrists still carried faint red marks, phantom weight of metal. She whispered to the dark, not prayer, not curse, just truth spoken into wind. They think this ends here. Her phone buzzed again. A notification? Live Senator Hayes' comments on Carter arrest. She tapped it. The screen filled with the senator's smooth expression, words dripping with calculation. While we all respect Dr. Carter's achievements, law enforcement deserves the benefit of the doubt. None of us are above the law. Maya's jaw locked. Somewhere in a precinct office, Sergeant Holt watched the same clip and smirked. City Hall smelled of cold coffee and disinfectant, the scent of control maintained by exhaustion. Behind a closed mahogany door, 3 officials sat around a long table, voices low and clipped. Optics are bad, said Deputy Chief Ward, his tie loosened, but not unrecoverable. We issue a formal apology, suspend the sergeant, say it's under review. Councilman Drayton grunted. You think an apology fixes a presidential candidate in handcuffs? She's already trending in Brussels. The mayor leaned back, face pale under fluorescent light. We can't admit misconduct. Liability's too high. Our insurance partners are watching. Ward nodded. Then we shift narrative. Human error. Overzealous procedure. Maybe highlight her cooperation. Cooperation? Drayton scoffed. You saw that footage. She barely raised her voice. Exactly, Ward said quietly. Makes her harder to discredit. A silence followed, the kind filled with career calculations and unspoken prejudice. Across town, Maya sat in her attorney's office. Sleeves rolled to her elbows, eyes red from sleeplessness. Malcolm Jones dropped a folder on the table. Internal memos, he said. Anonymous leak. They're already rehearsing their excuses. Maya opened the file. Phrases circled in yellow. Standard procedure, training gap. Officer acted in perceived threat environment. Her fingers trembled slightly. Perceived threat. Malcolm folded his arms. They'll never say racial bias, that's a career-ending term. Alicia entered mid-conversation, phone buzzing in her hand. The union's holding a press conference in an hour. They're calling it support for law enforcement under attack. Maya looked up. They're protecting him. Malcolm nodded grimly. They always do. Qualified immunity, political cover, fear of precedent. You're not fighting one man. You're fighting a machine. She stared at her reflection in the dark glass of the office window. Then the machine needs to see itself. Later, at the police headquarters, Sergeant Holt stood before his superior. The room buzzed with fluorescent light and the hum of an air vent. You're on leave, Ward said flatly. With pay? Ward hesitated. For now. Holt's jaw set. I did my job. No one's saying it, but you know what kind of neighborhood she was driving through. Ward cut him off. Don't, not here. Not in writing, Holt's voice dropped, bitter. She made me a villain on national TV. Ward leaned forward. You made yourself one. Now stay quiet until this blows over. Holt's nostrils flared. She lied about resisting. Ward's expression darkened. Body cam says otherwise. A muscle twitched in Holt's cheek. You're gonna hang me to save face. Ward sighed. You hung yourself. That night, in her apartment, Maya scrolled through messages from supporters. Photos of rallies, handwritten notes from children, a single mother's message. You spoke for us before you spoke for yourself. She set the phone down and stared at the campaign poster on the wall. Her smiling face, the slogan, Justice means everyone. Alicia's voice broke the quiet. Malcolm's right, you know. You should sue. Maya shook her head. If I sue, I become the story. They'll make this about me, not the system. Alicia crossed her arms. The system hides behind people like you staying noble. Maya looked away. Nobility isn't the goal. Change is. Then stop bleeding for optics. The words landed hard. Maya didn't respond. She watched headlights crawl across the wall, moving, fading, gone. Her voice finally came, low. They'll weaponize my anger. Every word I say has to be precise. Alicia leaned forward. And every silence you give becomes permission. They held each other's gaze. Loyalty and frustration locked in the same heartbeat. In a dimly lit bar across town, Holt sat alone, beer half finished, newsfeed glowing on his phone. Comment sections called him everything from hero to racist pig. His wife had stopped answering calls. His son's text sat unread. Dad, why'd you do it? He stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering, then locked the screen. Outside, rain fell again, soft, unrelenting. Maya stood on her balcony, hair pulled back, city glittering beneath a thin fog. Alicia's words still echoed. Every silence becomes permission. She pulled out her phone, opened the Notes app, and began typing the first lines of a new speech. They said it was procedure. They said it was a mistake. But every system built on silence calls its harm normal. She stopped, exhaled, then saved the draft. Tomorrow, the city would call for a hearing. The chamber overflowed before dawn. Press cameras lined the back wall, microphones sprouting from wooden rails like weeds. Every seat was taken, activists, in shirts bearing Maya's face, officers in uniform, reporters murmuring into live feeds. The city held its breath. At the front table, Maya sat beside Malcolm and Alicia. Her suit was navy, her expression steady. Across from her, Sergeant Holt adjusted his collar, sweat pooling at his temples. His lawyer whispered something that sounded like strategy but smelled like fear. The mayor's gavel struck once. This hearing is now in session. We're here to determine whether Sergeant Richard Holt acted in accordance with departmental policy during the detention of Dr. Maya Carter. Cameras clicked. Malcolm leaned toward her. Stay concise, let evidence speak. They'll try to bait emotion. She nodded, eyes fixed on the counsel. The mayor gestured. Dr. Carter, you may begin. Maya stood. Her heels echoed against marble. I was pulled over for fitting a description. I was handcuffed without cause. I identified myself repeatedly. I was told my credentials were fake. Her tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. The quiet itself was power. During this time, she continued, dispatch confirmed my identity. Yet the arrest continued. That's not misunderstanding. That's disregard. Murmurs spread. The mayor's pen froze mid-note. From the defense table, Holt's attorney rose. Dr. Carter, can you confirm that you did not comply immediately when asked to step out of the vehicle? I asked why I was being detained, which the officer perceived as resistance. Perception doesn't change the law, she replied evenly. A ripple of applause broke out before the gavel silenced it. Holt's attorney pressed on. My client believed you might be armed. Maya turned toward Holt. Did you believe that? Holt shifted. It was dark. Your hands weren't fully visible. She lifted her wrists, motioning to invisible cuffs. They were, when you chained them. Gasps. The attorney began to object, but the mayor cut him off. Sergeant Holt, did you receive dispatch confirmation of Dr. Carter's identity before the arrest? Holt hesitated. I can't recall the exact sequence. Malcolm rose. We have body cam footage. A screen lowered. The lights dimmed. The video played. Rain, headlights, voices. That's Dr. Carter. Phones down. Click of handcuffs. Dispatch confirms. Quiet. The chamber went still. When the lights returned, Holt's face had drained of color. Maya sat again, hands folded. The silence that followed was colder than any shout. Outside, the hallway filled with reporters. Alicia stood near the door, watching Maya answer questions with that same calm that drove her mad and inspired her equally. A reporter called out, Dr. Carter, do you forgive him? She paused, then said, Forgiveness is personal. Accountability is public. The quote exploded online within minutes. Inside a back office, the mayor rubbed his eyes. We can't suppress that footage. It's public record now. Ward spoke quietly. Then we pivot, promise reform, create a task force, make her part of it if she'll accept. Drayton frowned. You think she'll let herself be used as a symbol? Ward shrugged. Symbols win elections. Maybe she knows that better than we do. That night, Maya sat in her hotel room surrounded by silence. The adrenaline had drained, leaving exhaustion behind. Alicia paced by the window, watching protesters chant outside. You crushed him, Alicia said. Every word landed. Maya shook her head. No, the system isn't crushed, just exposed. Malcolm entered, holding a tablet. It's trending, millions watching. You turned the city hearing into a national event. Good, Maya said. Then they'll remember the next time it happens. Alicia turned from the window. Next time you really think, I know there'll be one. The room went quiet again. Across town, Holt sat in his car outside the precinct. His hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. He stared through the windshield at the building that no longer felt like protection. Inside his pocket, his phone buzzed. Messages from fellow officers. We've got your back. Another from his son. Why didn't you stop when dispatch told you? He didn't reply. He looked up at the rearview mirror. For a split second, he didn't recognize the man staring back. Midnight. Maya opened her laptop to draft a statement for the press. Words blurred before her eyes. She deleted the first line 3 times before settling on, "What happened to me is not rare. The only difference is that the camera stayed on." Her hand hovered over the keyboard. Then she added, "This is not a moment, it's a mirror." She hit save, closed the lid, and exhaled. Outside, the protest chants grew louder, rhythmic, relentless. Through the window, blue lights flashed again in the distance, not hers this time, but someone else's. 3 days after the hearing, the world had chosen sides. Cable news anchors dissected every pause, every breath, every syllable of Maya's testimony. Memes, op-eds, think pieces. Her calm had become a spectacle, but calm couldn't hold forever. At campaign headquarters, fluorescent lights hummed over weary faces. Coffee cups half empty, phones buzzing nonstop. Alicia slammed her laptop shut. Another threat. Maya looked up. Anonymous? Of course. They sent an image of your arrest photo scribbled with, "Stay in your lane." Maya's pulse barely flickered. They're desperate. Alicia stepped closer. You keep saying that like it's armor. It's not. They could come to your house, your rallies. I won't hide. Alicia's voice cracked. Then at least admit you're scared. Maya looked at her, tired, unflinching. I don't have time to be scared. In the next room, Malcolm was on a call with federal contacts, voice low. No, she hasn't filed charges yet. Yes, she's considering. No, it's not about optics. It's about survival. He hung up and walked back in. You're under surveillance now, Maya. FBI liaison confirmed threats credible. Maya sighed. Protection makes me look fragile. Protection keeps you alive. Alicia shot him a look. She doesn't want handlers. She wants agency. She's not just a candidate anymore, Malcolm countered. She's a symbol. Symbols get targeted. The argument simmered. Maya broke it. Both of you are right. But none of that changes what I have to do. What's that? Alicia asked. Speak again. Tomorrow. Alicia threw up her hands. You need rest. You're burning out. I'm not tired, Maya said. I'm tempered. Across town, Holt sat in his dim living room, curtains drawn. His suspension papers lay folded on the table beside an untouched plate of food. The TV played coverage of the protests. The reporter's voice. Sergeant Richard Holt remains on administrative leave pending investigation. Community outrage continues. He muted it. From down the hall, a door creaked. His teenage son Ryan stepped out. Hoodie on, face tense. Dad. Holt looked up. What's wrong? Ryan hesitated. At school. They're calling you racist. Holt's jaw tightened. You know that's not true. Ryan didn't answer. I did my job, Holt said, quieter now. I followed protocol. Ryan's eyes glistened. Then why didn't you stop when dispatch said her name? Holt had no answer. The silence between them was heavier than guilt. Ryan turned and walked out, leaving the door half open. Holt stared after him, the room suddenly too small for the noise in his head. The next evening, Maya stood behind a curtain at a downtown auditorium. The crowd was larger than any before. Security doubled. The air pulsed with energy, anger, grief, hope braided together. Alicia adjusted her earpiece. We can cancel if it feels unsafe. Across town, Holt sat in his dim living room, curtains drawn. His suspension papers lay folded on the table beside an untouched plate of food. The TV played coverage of the protests, the reporter's voice. Sergeant Richard Holt remains on administrative leave pending investigation. Community outrage continues. He muted it. From down the hall, a door creaked. His teenage son, Ryan, stepped out. Hoodie on, face tense. Dad. Holt looked up. What's wrong? Ryan hesitated. At school. They're calling you racist. Holt's jaw tightened. You know that's not true. Ryan didn't answer. I did my job, Holt said, quieter now. I followed protocol. Ryan's eyes glistened. Then why didn't you stop when dispatch said her name? Holt had no answer. The silence between them was heavier than guilt. Ryan turned and walked out, leaving the door half open. Holt stared after him, the room suddenly too small for the noise in his head. The next evening, Maya stood behind a curtain at a downtown auditorium. The crowd was larger than any before. Security doubled. The air pulsed with energy. Anger, grief, hope braided together. Alicia adjusted her earpiece. We can cancel if it feels unsafe. Maya straightened her jacket. If they silence me, they win twice. The announcer's voice boomed. Please welcome Dr. Maya Carter. The crowd rose. Applause rolled through the hall like thunder. She stepped up to the podium, the lights blinding. Cameras aimed like rifles. She began slowly. They told me to move on. They told me to heal quietly. The room hushed. But healing without truth is erasure, and silence is not peace, and it's compliance. A murmur of agreement swelled. She continued. This isn't about one officer. It's about every unchecked, hand-holding power, every policy that forgives harm before it admits it exists. Alicia watched from backstage, eyes wet. Maya's voice softened. I'm not here for vengeance, I'm here for correction. Applause roared, but Maya didn't smile. She looked down at her notes, saw the faint stain of sweat and ink where her hand had pressed too long. Her body trembled, not from fear but from the cost of composure. That night, alone in her hotel room, she replayed the speech on her tablet. Her own voice sounded distant. A knock came. Malcolm entered quietly. It worked. Donations doubled. Public sympathy shifted. But I need to ask, what? When does this end for you? She stared at the screen. When people stop needing proof that pain exists. He nodded, wordless. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere. A familiar pitch. A cruel echo. Maya turned off the tablet. Her reflection lingered in the black screen, faint and tired, but unbroken. At 6:42 a.m., Alicia's phone buzzed 3 times in quick succession. She blinked at the screen, still half asleep. Subject: watch this before it's deleted. Attached: a 2-minute body cam clip. She sat upright, heart hammering as the file loaded, Holt's voice unmistakable. Think she's somebody? Wait till booking. Let's see how presidential she feels then. Laughter, a metallic clang. A muffled protest. Alicia's fingers froze. She hit replay, making sure she wasn't mishearing. Then she forwarded it to Maya and Malcolm with one line. It's real. It's bad. It's going viral in 10 minutes. By 7 a.m., every major outlet had the footage. By 7:15, hashtags, Carter leak, Holt tapes, procedure my ass. Malcolm's office filled with voices, phones, chaos. It's confirmed, he said, pacing. Anonymous whistleblower. Internal Affairs authenticated the audio. They can't spin this one. Maya sat motionless, coffee untouched. How bad is it for them? Existential. Alicia entered, hair still wet, laptop in hand. Look at this. Hundreds of thousands of retweets already. Protest plans in D.C., Chicago, Atlanta. It's like a dam broke. Maya read the scrolling comments. Outrage, sorrow, fire. Then a quieter one caught her eye. If she wasn't famous, we'd never have seen this. She whispered. They're right. Malcolm looked up. What? This isn't justice yet. It's just proof. By noon, the police department's press room looked like a siege site. Reporters filled every inch, microphones aimed at the podium like weapons. Deputy Chief Ward faced the cameras. We condemn the remarks captured in the video. Sergeant Holt has been terminated pending criminal investigation. Questions erupted. Why was the footage hidden? When did you first know? Did the mayor authorize suppression? Ward stammered through pre-approved lines. The crowd smelled weakness. Outside, the protest had already begun, chants rolling like surf. No more silence, no more shields. Banners fluttered with Maya's face, not as victim, but as catalyst. In her apartment, Maya watched the live feed. Alicia stood behind her, phone ringing nonstop. "They're calling you a movement now," Alicia said. "Hashtags, fundraisers, international coverage. You're bigger than the campaign." Maya didn't respond. Her gaze stayed fixed on Holt's face on the screen, frozen mid-sentence, smirking in the leaked video. Malcolm arrived, coat damp from rain. "The DA's office wants to talk. They're considering charges, abuse of authority, falsifying records, obstruction." Maya turned slowly. "Will they follow through?" "They have to. The world's watching." She exhaled. "Then it's time I spoke again." That evening, she stood before an ocean of people outside the Capitol. The sky hung low, gray with promise. The crowd's roar was alive, pulsing. She raised her hand. Silence. Her voice cut through the chill air. "You saw what they hid. You heard what they said. But understand this, what you saw isn't rare, it's routine. And it doesn't end with one man's downfall." A man in the front shouted, "Lock him up." Maya shook her head. "If we only punish people, we never change systems." Applause rolled again. Not thunderous this time, but steady, enduring. She continued, "Justice isn't vengeance, it's maintenance. We can't rebuild a nation if we only swap the villains." Alicia watched from backstage, eyes glistening. Malcolm whispered beside her, "She's rewriting the campaign playbook." Alicia nodded. "She's rewriting the country." Later, in the car, Maya slumped back in her seat. Exhaustion trembled in her fingers. Alicia handed her a water bottle. "They're calling you the conscience candidate now." Maya half smiled. "That'll last until the next controversy." "You think this fades?" "It always fades. Until the next body, the next video." Malcolm glanced in the rearview mirror. "Maybe this one sticks. Maybe it changes policy." "Policy doesn't grieve," Maya said softly. "People do." The car rolled past the Capitol steps, the same place she'd spoken from minutes ago. A lone protester still stood there, holding a sign with her words printed in black paint. "This is not a moment, it's a mirror." Meanwhile, in a nondescript motel on the edge of the city, Holt watched the same broadcast. The leaked video looped on his screen, his own voice echoing back like judgment. He poured whiskey into a plastic cup. His phone buzzed again. Calls from reporters, messages from lawyers. None answered. Then a new message from an unknown number. "Truth always leaks. Yours just happened to drown you first." He threw the phone against the wall. The screen cracked. His reflection splintered with it. At dawn, Maya's team convened in the war room. The air was thick with fatigue and triumph. Malcolm pointed at the numbers on the screen. "Polls up 10 points overnight. You're untouchable now." Maya stared at the data, her name rising in green bars. "Untouchable?" she said quietly. "No one is, that's the problem." The room went silent. She turned to Alicia. "Schedule my next address, title it What Justice Looks Like in Daylight." Alicia nodded, though her throat tightened. "When?" "Tomorrow morning." Maya looked out the window at the breaking dawn, pale, uncertain, new. "The country's awake," she said. "Now it has to stay that way." The courthouse smelled of disinfectant and old wood polish, that blend of law and memory that never quite washed clean. Rows of reporters lined the benches, their lenses already aimed. Supporters filled the gallery in silence, holding their phones like votive candles. At the front, Dr. Maya Carter sat beside Malcolm. Her hands rested in her lap, palms open, still, deliberate. Across the aisle, Sergeant Richard Holt straightened his tie with trembling fingers. The cameras caught the motion, the small shake he couldn't hide. The judge entered. "This court is now in session." The gavel struck once. Maya inhaled slowly, feeling every sound magnify, shuffling papers, clicking pens, the creak of wooden benches. Every sense was sharp, almost surgical. The prosecution began. Your Honor, the state presents evidence that the defendant, Sergeant Richard Holt, knowingly and unlawfully detained and humiliated Dr. Maya Carter, despite confirmation of her identity, and falsified portions of his arrest report. The courtroom buzzed. Holt's attorney rose. My client acted within his training, Your Honor. Any procedural lapse was unintentional and born of a tense, ambiguous situation. The judge's gaze hardened. We'll let the evidence speak. The first witness, Officer Parker, young, pale, nervous. His voice barely carried. Did dispatch confirm Dr. Carter's identity before the arrest? The prosecutor asked. Yes, sir. They did. And did Sergeant Holt acknowledge that confirmation? Parker swallowed. He heard it. I told him. What did he say? He said, too late now. A murmur rippled through the room. The judge banged the gavel. Order. Maya didn't move, but her pulse thrummed in her neck. Parker looked down, voice cracking. I should have stopped it. I didn't. I was scared. Scared of what? Of him. Of the system. His words hung in the air, raw and irreversible. The defense tried to dismantle him. Officer Parker, you're under departmental review yourself, correct? Yes. So you have incentive to shift blame? I have incentive to tell the truth. The gallery murmured again. Next came the whistleblower, a tech analyst from Internal Affairs. Her testimony was calm, surgical, devastating. The body cam files were marked for deletion under Directive 9B, she said. But I noticed a time gap in the log, a missing 2 minutes. The same 2 minutes that later appeared in the leak? Yes, those were manually concealed. And who had clearance? Sergeant Holt. Holt shifted, jaw tightening. His attorney whispered something, but his eyes stayed fixed on the table, unfocused. Then the judge turned. Dr. Carter, would you like to make a statement? Maya rose. The weight of 1,000 lenses pressed against her. She walked to the stand, the courtroom holding its breath. Dr. Carter, the prosecutor began softly. What do you remember most about that night? She met his eyes, steady. The sound of the handcuffs. Not the pain, the sound, it was final. She looked toward Holt. I saw in his face that he wasn't afraid of me. He was certain I didn't belong. Holt's jaw twitched. And what do you want this court to know? The prosecutor asked. That this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a reflection, a mirror of what happens to thousands who never get a camera, who never get believed. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. Justice isn't for me alone. It's for the ones still invisible. Even the reporters stopped typing. Cross-examination came next. Holt's attorney adjusted his tie. Dr. Carter, you've gained significant public attention from this event, haven't you? Yes. And political advantage? She tilted her head slightly. Advantage implies I asked for it. I didn't. I survived it. The attorney hesitated. Would you say this trial benefits your campaign? It benefits the truth, she said. The campaign will end. The truth shouldn't. He had no comeback. The gavel struck again. Closing arguments. The prosecutor spoke first. The badge is not a shield for prejudice. The uniform is not immunity. The defendant abused both, not in chaos, but in certainty. He believed his actions would disappear like so many others have. But this time, the light stayed on. Then the defense. My client has served honorably for 20 years. He acted on instinct, not hate. We cannot criminalize imperfection. Maya watched Holt's hands, the subtle twitch of his fingers, the sheen of sweat. She wondered if he still believed that instinct justified everything. The judge dismissed the jury. Deliberation lasted 4 hours. The world waited outside the courthouse like a held breath. When the jurors returned, their faces said everything. The foreperson stood. We find the defendant guilty on all counts. A gasp. A low ripple of voices. Holt closed his eyes. His shoulders sagged. For the first time, Maya saw not defiance but the hollow space where certainty had lived. The judge spoke quietly. Sentencing will follow. Cameras flashed. Reporters surged. Malcolm leaned toward Maya. You did it, she shook her head. We all did, and we all lost something doing it. Outside, rain began to fall again. Crowds erupted in cheers and tears. Signs lifted. Accountability is not revenge. Justice means memory. Maya stepped onto the courthouse steps. Alicia and Malcolm flanked her. The microphones came alive. "Dr. Carter, how do you feel?" She paused. The rain touched her face like absolution. "I feel what every survivor of injustice feels. Relief without joy." The crowd quieted. She continued. "Justice isn't victory. It's maintenance. We clean the wound so it can't infect again. But the scar stays. Mine will. So will his." Then she walked away down the steps, into the crowd that had made her both symbol and survivor. Somewhere behind her, Holt was led away in handcuffs. The same metallic click that had once marked her humiliation. Now it marked consequence. Morning light fractured across the marble of the Capitol dome. Cold, clean, unflinching. Election day had come. Washington, D.C. hummed like a heartbeat, every block alive with cameras, buses, voters, and quiet tension. Polling lines wrapped around corners, murmurs rippling like wind through flags. Dr. Maya Carter watched from her hotel window. No makeup, no entourage, just coffee gone cold and a single envelope from the campaign's data team. Projected path to 270. She didn't open it. Alicia entered quietly. The networks start coverage in 30 minutes. Malcolm's already at headquarters. Maya nodded without turning. "How's turnout?" "Massive. Early reports say record black voter participation. They're calling it the Carter surge." Maya's voice stayed low. "Not for me. For themselves." Alicia smiled faintly. "They'd say that's the same thing." "No," Maya said. "It's better." By noon, the war room pulsed with activity. Maps glowed across screens and blue bleeding into red, red pushing back. Reporters swarmed the lobby downstairs, broadcasting predictions by the minute. Malcolm paced, phone pressed to his ear. "Yes, I saw Michigan. Tell them not to call it yet. We've still got Flint precincts outstanding." He turned as Maya entered. The room stilled. "You ready for this?" he asked. "I've been ready since they put me in handcuffs," she said. No one laughed. At 4 p.m., news broke. Holt sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for civil rights violations and falsifying evidence. The room reacted in a strange hush, as if the sound itself carried weight. Malcolm exhaled. "Poetic timing." Alicia looked at Maya. "Want to make a statement?" She shook her head. "Not yet. Let the silence speak first." Evening descended. Polls closed in the east. Networks rolled out graphics like fireworks. Maps shifting, anchors speculating, voices blending into a hum. Maya sat apart from the chaos, watching without expression. Every new state result appeared like a pulse on the nation's body, each one proof that pain could still produce movement. Malcolm approached. "You've got Pennsylvania. That's the game changer." Maya didn't smile. "Not yet. Let's see if the country keeps its nerve." Near midnight, Alicia returned from a call, breathless. "It's official." "You've crossed 270, the room erupted." Staff shouted, cried, embraced. The floor shook with relief. Maya stood slowly, absorbing the sound like distant thunder. Malcolm approached, eyes bright. "Madam President-elect." The words didn't land, not immediately. Then quietly, Maya said, "Say it again." He did. And for a brief second, the room stilled in awe. She exhaled. "Then we start the real work tomorrow." Minutes later, she stepped onto the stage set up outside the headquarters. Thousands filled the plaza, faces upturned, soaked in light and rain. The crowd chanted her name. She raised one hand. Silence rippled outward, instant, reverent. Her voice carried steady through the night air. "Tonight isn't about a woman or a title. It's about a reckoning that refused to stay buried." Applause rose, then faded as she continued. 2 years ago, I was handcuffed on a street for being the wrong color in the wrong car. Tonight, the same nation that watched that video chose to confront itself." A pause. Wind cut across the stage. This victory isn't vindication. It's responsibility. Justice didn't end with one trial. It begins every morning we wake up and choose to see each other fully. She looked out at the sea of lights, her voice lowering. "If you voted for me, hold me accountable. If you didn't, still hold me accountable. That's democracy, and not worship, but vigilance." The cheers this time were different, quieter, heavier, real. Behind her on the giant screen, the final results glowed. Maya Carter, 312 electoral votes. After the speech, she stepped off stage into a small tent behind the curtains. The roar of the crowd softened to a hum. Malcolm handed her a towel. "You know, history's going to canonize that speech." I don't want canonization, she said. I want continuity. He nodded, understanding. Alicia entered, eyes red from tears. The networks are looping the moment Holt's sentence came through. People are calling it the pivot point of an era. Maya sat, legs trembling now that adrenaline had drained. An era doesn't pivot on one verdict. It shifts when ordinary people stop accepting the ordinary. Alicia sat beside her.
Still, you gave them language.
You gave them a name for what they felt. Maya looked at her, tired but resolute. Then they need to learn to speak it without me. Later, alone in the quiet suite, she finally opened the envelope marked Projected Path to 270. Inside was a single sheet, now obsolete. She smiled faintly, tore it in half and dropped it into the trash. Outside, fireworks burst above the city. Their reflections flickered against the window glass, brief and brilliant. Maya whispered to her own reflection, "We made it visible. Now they have to keep it visible." Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You don't know me. My brother was arrested last year. Your story saved his life. Thank you." She stared at the words until they blurred. Then she typed back, "Keep saving it yourself." She locked the phone and turned back to the window. The night stretched wide, not peaceful but awake, and for the first time she didn't feel alone in the work ahead. The sun rose over Washington like an exhausted sigh, pale gold bleeding into gray, soft light catching on the monuments and scaffolds that littered the city's skyline. Inside the presidential transition suite, the celebration had burned out hours ago. Streamers lay in puddles of spilled champagne. Staff slept on couches, phones still in hand. The air smelled of victory and exhaustion. Maya sat alone at the conference table. No cameras, no noise, just coffee and silence. Alicia entered quietly, her voice rough from lack of sleep. "The Secret Service wants to finalize your protection schedule." "They're outside." Maya nodded but didn't move. "I haven't slept. Neither has anyone else." "I'm not tired," Maya said. "I'm aware." Alicia hesitated. "Of what?" How fragile this all is. How easily it could slide backward. On the muted TV, a morning anchor smiled through fatigue. A historic night. President-elect Maya Carter becomes the first black woman elected to the highest office in the nation. Across the country, celebrations continue. The chyron shifted. Police union responds to Holt conviction. Maya turned the sound on. A uniformed spokesperson spoke with careful tone. "While we respect the court's decision, we caution against vilifying an entire profession based on isolated actions. True justice must include understanding for those who serve." Alicia's jaw clenched. "They're already rewriting the story." Maya shut off the screen. "Of course they are. Power never admits guilt, it rephrases it." Malcolm entered, still in yesterday's suit. "Media requests are piling up. You've got invitations from every major outlet. BBC, CNN, even Fox wants the first interview. Decline them." He blinked. "All of them?" "Yes, let them talk without me for a while. But this is your moment." She looked up, eyes sharp. "No, it's the country's moment. If I dominate the conversation, they'll turn it into spectacle. I want policy, not personality." Alicia gave a small smile. "You realize that's the opposite of how politics works. Then maybe politics needs to remember how silence works." The door buzzed. A staffer entered with a tablet. "Ma'am, the White House called. The outgoing administration requests a meeting for transition protocols." Maya took the tablet, scrolling through the calendar. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. As the staffer left, she leaned back. "It begins." Malcolm raised an eyebrow. "What does?" "The part where they stop calling me a symbol and start calling me a threat." Later that morning, Maya walked out to the terrace overlooking Pennsylvania Avenue. The city was waking. Sirens distant, the smell of wet asphalt after night rain, the faint sound of someone whistling below. Alicia followed. "You know, you don't have to go through with the inauguration. You could walk away now and history would still have your name." Maya didn't turn. "You mean I could rest?" "Yes. I don't think people like me were ever allowed to rest. We just build while we can." Alicia was quiet. Then softly, "It cost you everything." Maya nodded. "It cost exactly what it was supposed to." Her phone buzzed, a text from a blocked number. "You'll never fix it. They'll eat you like they eat everyone." She stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it without replying. Malcolm appeared behind her, holding the morning briefing folder. "Security wants final approval for your first route to the White House. Let them decide." I'll follow. He hesitated. You don't sound triumphant. I'm not. Triumph is temporary. Consequence is permanent. The rest of the morning blurred. Transition meetings, interviews declined. Calls from foreign leaders congratulating her, each one reciting polished phrases. She answered them all with the same even tone. Gratitude without warmth, resolve without illusion. When the last call ended, she looked out the window again. The rain had stopped. The streets glistened. In the reflection of the glass, her own eyes met hers. Calm, unreadable. Alicia entered one last time. You're supposed to go down in 5 minutes. Press is waiting. For what? They want a photo. The morning after shot. Symbol of hope. Maya stood, straightened her jacket. Hope isn't a photo. I know, Alicia said. But sometimes it starts there. Maya walked toward the elevator, each step deliberate. The guard opened the door. At the threshold, she turned to Alicia. When I step out there, they'll see history. But I'll see obligation. Don't let them confuse the two. Alicia nodded, eyes glassy. Yes, ma'am. The elevator door slid shut. Outside, flashes erupted. The world's cameras focused on her. The woman who'd gone from mugshot to mandate. She lifted her hand in quiet acknowledgement. Not triumph. A journalist shouted, Madam President, how does it feel to have changed America? Maya paused, the microphones leaning forward like hungry mouths. Her answer was measured, simple. I didn't change America. America revealed itself. My job is to make sure it doesn't look away. The shutters clicked in rapid succession, capturing that moment. Rain-damp hair, steady gaze, no smile. Not a symbol. Not a savior. Just a woman standing at the fault line of a nation that finally saw its own reflection.